Welcome to the MontCAS Test Security and Data Integrity video series. The purpose of this video is to provide the viewer with information on the importance of monitoring and everyone's role in it. This video will explore this objective so the viewer can complete this training with the following understandings. In this video, we'll elaborate on the 4 tools that can be used to monitor before, during, and after testing to ensure assessments are conducted uniformly across students, groups, schools, and with integrity in order to yield accurate results of student achievement. These 4 plans are invaluable to a school system for these 2 very particular monitoring reasons. State testing functions as a system in a school as it takes multiple players, students, teachers, principals. Thus, as the definition states, it is a set of connected parts forming a complex whole. All facets, administration, security, accessibility, scoring, reporting, etc., in testing must work together to yield accurate data. A systems approach functions that must happen before, during, and after test administration for this assessment to yield reliable and valid data on student achievement for accountability purposes. These 4 resources will highlight why monitoring is so important. Monitoring is the first line of defense to correct anything during assessment before it is too late. That is, when the results have already been issued or accountability decisions have already taken place. Who is responsible for test security? Everyone. Everyone who works with the Montana Comprehensive Assessment System, statewide assessments, communicates test results, and/or receives testing information is responsible for test security. This includes Montana Office of Public Instruction staff, authorized representatives, system test coordinators, building coordinators, test administrators, students, parents, and the community at large, and certified and non-certified public school staff. New to 2019-2020, STCs are required to have 4 MontCAS test plans to ensure the school system administers state assessments consistently and with fidelity. Not only are these plans essential components of the prevention within the PDIR model, but they are also the 4 biggest threats or risks to the overall reliability and validity of the statewide assessments. Each plan has 3 distinct implementation features: 1, evidence; 2, action steps; and 3, timeline. The MontCAS testing plans define the expectations of the school and should be created with the persons involved with testing. The OPI has created procedural guidance, including these 4 plans, but at the state level, we want to know how these policies and procedures are actually implemented at the local level. The OPI needs confirmation for how these activities are actually handled in each school system. What happens to support this plan item? Who is involved to make sure this activity is accomplished? How does this activity get accomplished? List the steps taken to ensure these tasks are completed. Time frame required to implement each step. These 4 plans assist system test coordinators with ensuring that within each school testing is standardized and complete. The plan should be maintained annually in accordance with the local school district policies and stored for a period of 3 years. Plan 1, the test administration plan, is important as it covers these 10 items, which are foundational with the principles for fewer and smarter assessments and testing transparency guidelines that each stakeholder in assessments should be knowledgeable of and familiar with. Ultimately, the plan ensures schools have clear expectations on what must happen before, during, and after testing to ensure a successful administration of each assessment, and that everyone is knowledgeable of what assessments are required by state and federal law and how these data are actually used in the educational system. Plan 2. The test security plan is important as it covers these 10 items, which are foundational to safeguarding the assessments and upholding the integrity of the data. This plan is in place to ensure student privacy is protected, to ensure students, parents, teachers, and school leaders understand the importance of keeping test items and secure from unauthorized disclosure, to ensure standardized training and testing conditions to yield fair, valid, and reliable results, and last but not least, to routinely monitor adherence to test administration, security, accessibility, and best practices to optimize student performance. Actionable feedback is necessary and is just one example of active monitoring. Plan 3. The test accessibility plan is important as it covers these 10 items which are foundational to ensure no student has an unfair advantage and that all students have equal access to participate in assessments. Standard accommodations do not override standard administration of an assessment. They must be determined on an individual basis. The decision should be made by a team of educators familiar with the student, and the parents or guardians of the student. Accommodations must be used in instruction and classroom contexts throughout the year so students are familiar and comfortable using the accommodation. Plan 4. The test training plan is important as it emphasizes the past 3 plans, except that it explicitly requires adequate and timely training so all persons involved in the testing fully understand their role and the responsibility involved. School staff must know who to contact for help and technical assistance during test administration. School staff must know what is expected of them and receive appropriate training before administering tests to avoid any preventable incidents. Just as prevention is the cornerstone of PDIR model, training is also the anchor to ensuring test security and data integrity occurs at the local level. Let's walk through an example to emphasize the points of why these plans are so important. This slide shows stakeholders the 6 state-required assessments, the test windows, the subjects assessed, and the grades assessed. Each school stakeholder should be knowledgeable about these 4 things. With that test window example in mind, 58 STCs from 319 school systems reported via the STC debrief survey for the 2018-2019 assessments that the staff training for assessments typically occurs as early as January 23rd. Based on the last slide, why is this training in January potentially problematic? If you answered because of the English language proficiency exam, Access for ELS, has already taken place, then you are correct. Here is another example of the importance of testing plans. On this slide, 58 STCs from 319 school systems reported via the STC debrief survey responded that 88% had a student familiarity and practice plan in place to make sure the kids are familiar with testing expectations and have an opportunity to experience the platform, item types, test settings, etc. Let's use a baseball analogy. Could a major league hitter hit a home run to win the game without any practice? It is probably highly unlikely the baseball player could be successful without lots of practice and training. Thus, the same mindset should be true for students taking state tests. In order for them to do their very best and demonstrate fully what he or she knows and is able to do, we should be giving them the opportunity to practice and gain familiarity with the expectations prior to measuring their learning. This illustrates an example of best practices in assessment. Now please take a moment to complete these H5P questions before we move on to the next concept.